Okay, so I know you read the title and you're probably thinking, alright, T-Bryce finally lost his mind, but hear me out. So, as a lot of you already know, it is the opinion of mine, as well as a few other people in the Naruto/Boruto community, that Daemon and Ada's abilities are too overpowered and insane to just be things that Amado created using science, and they are likely somehow the abilities of Otsutsuki. Specifically, the abilities of the two Otsutsuki that were represented by the destroyed symbols in the Ten Tails dimension. I'm not going to go over the specifics of the theory here, I'll just give you a brief recap, but I do have a video that goes over the theory in full if you want to check that out and then come back here. I'll leave the link to that in the description below. But basically, it goes like this. Daemon and Ada's abilities, like I said, are far too complex to be Amado's scientific creations. He's an amazing scientist, sure, but not amazing enough to create a dojutsu that can see everything at all times, even gaze into the past. All dojutsu that we know the origin of come from Otsutsuki, and so considering all we know, it makes sense that Ada's dojutsu and likely Daemon's reflection ability both come from Otsutsuki. The two Otsutsuki in question are possibly the two destroyed symbols that Sasuke discovered when he went to the Ten Tails dimension. It's important to note that every Otsutsuki symbol on the wall here are those of paired Otsutsuki that have visited Earth. This leads me to believe that the two destroyed ones belong to two more Otsutsuki that were sent to Earth as a pair. These symbols wouldn't be here and be shown for no reason. Surely they will be involved in the plot at some point. Amado experimenting on these Otsutsuki could also explain why he knows so much about the way they work. So that's the first theory, but recently I came up with an insane follow-up to that specifically regarding Daemon that I'm going to share with you right now. So as we know, Daemon has an ability that allows him to instantly reflect an opponent's attack onto them without even thinking about doing so. It's so powerful that even an opponent thinking about the attack is enough to trigger a reflection. If they have a killing intent, it will automatically happen to them. This is easily one of the most insanely overpowered and broken abilities we've ever witnessed in the Naruto universe. But this actually isn't the first time that we've seen an ability like this. Enter Hidan of the Akatsuki. Hidan, as I'm sure you all remember, was a shinobi who was not only immune to dying from any physical damage, but could also perform a curse that I'm a bit reluctant to even classify as a jutsu, as there are no hand signs used at all. But this curse would require the user to draw a symbol on the ground in his own blood, obtain the blood of his enemy, and ingest it. Once he eats the blood of his opponent, the curse is activated. With the curse activated, Hidan is then linked to the opponent, and any damage inflicted on Hidan's body will also be inflicted on the linked opponent. He then uses his immortality to his advantage and purposefully damages himself in order to kill his opponent. Basically, any damage on Hidan is reflected onto his opponent, just as the mere thought of harm upon Daemon is reflected onto his opponent. Essentially, Daemon's ability is a much more advanced and less flawed version of Hidan's ability. The reason I bring this comparison up is because there may actually be more to that similarity than just coincidence. So one of the major mysteries in the Naruto universe is the specifics surrounding how Hidan obtained his immortality and his damage reflection curse. Hidan claims that his immortality was bestowed upon him by the god he worships that goes by the name of Jashin. He also claims that Jashin asks nothing of his followers except to spread death and destruction, hence why Hidan enjoys killing so much. Very little is known about Jashin beyond that. Now, I'm sure many of you have heard about the theory that Jashin is thought to possibly be an Otsutsuki. I mean, it makes sense. Otsutsuki are often referred to as gods by humans, and Hidan worships and prays to this Jashin as if he is a god. Otsutsuki are also known to have ridiculously overpowered and unexplainable abilities, which also lines up with Hidan's abilities. Now, I know that this theory has been talked about before and probably laughed off a lot, but hear me out. You guys know I don't make theory videos unless there is actually factual information that I can connect. I promise you this is a bit more than some stupid fanfiction. I always thought that this theory was just cool and nothing more, until I started connecting some dots recently. Now hold on and pay attention because this is about to get crazy. I want to talk about the Chinoike Clan. You're probably wondering what the Chinoike Clan has to do with Hidan, let alone Daemon for that matter. This is all going to make sense in a minute. First of all, a quick refresher about who the Chinoike Clan is. The Chinoike Clan is a shinobi clan that dates back hundreds of years all the way into the Warring States period, much like the Uchiha, Senju, and most of the other prominent clans in the series. They were originally located in the Land of Lightning, however when the daimyo married a woman from the Chinoike clan, his first wife became jealous. The daimyo ended up dying and the jealous first wife blamed his death on the Chinoike clan woman. Long story short, the clan was banished from the Land of Lightning and it was in fact the Uchiha clan that was hired to ensure this banishment went smoothly. The Uchiha clan ended up forcing the Chinoike clan to settle in a place called the Valley of Hell, located in the Land of Hot Water. Now in the Land of Hot Water, there was once a ninja village that goes by a few different names depending on the source. The village hidden in hot water, the hidden hot springs village, or the one I use, the hidden steam village. Now a few months after the Chinoike clan's arrival in the Land of Hot Water, the hidden steam sent shinobi in to take a look. And they found members of the Chinoike clan drinking what they thought was blood, but it was actually just hot water turned red from the minerals in the valley. The hidden steam shinobi were rather frightened by this and simply deemed the Valley of Hell off limits. Over the years, its location and even its existence had been completely forgotten about. That is until a shinobi from the hidden steam once again stumbled upon the valley. This shinobi was a young Hidan. Except when Hidan arrived in the valley, all he found were the bodies of the Chinoike clan. They were dead. See, what had happened was the Chinoike clan had fallen to infighting. Because they lived in such close proximity to one another for so long, they became easily irritated. Little arguments became fights and larger arguments became major battles. In the anime, the disagreement that tipped them over the edge was whether or not the clan should seek revenge against the Uchiha for their role in the Chinoike clan's banishment. Some opted for pacifism while the others wanted nothing but to spill Uchiha blood. In the end, this disagreement would leave only 2 surviving members, but their story isn't necessarily relevant to the theory, so I'll stop there and save that for another video. Anyways, the reason I'm bringing up the Chinoike clan is because they were actually in possession of a special Kekkei Genkai, a dojutsu by the name of the Ketsuryugan that allowed them to manipulate blood and other liquids high in iron, as well as to cast genjutsu that rivals even that of the Sharingan's genjutsu, hence why the Uchiha were hired to see to their banishment. Now earlier in the video I mentioned that all dojutsu that we know the origin of comes from Otsutsuki. The reason I framed it this way is because there is one dojutsu which we do not know the origins of, the Ketsuryugan. So my theory is that following the logic of the Naruto series, the Ketsuryugan must have been passed down from some Otsutsuki. I believe that at some point in the past, there were other Otsutsuki on Earth besides Kaguya and Ishiki. None of the Otsutsuki we know of had the Ketsuryugan. They had the Byakugan, Rinnegan, and Sharingan. We've now in Boruto seen that there are more dojutsu within the Otsutsuki clan as well, such as Ishiki's dojutsu that Kawaki is now in possession of, as well as the Jogan. So then what Otsutsuki had the Ketsuryugan? Jashin Otsutsuki. How did I come to that conclusion? Well, let's go back to where I talked about Hidan discovering the Valley of Hell and the Chinoike clan's village full of corpses. You see, sometime after Hidan's discovery, the hidden steam village began to deteriorate from a full-fledged shinobi village due to the lack of conflict and need for shinobi in the area, and they slowly became more of a tourist destination on account of the multiple hot springs in the area. Hidan, however, craved combat and greatly disapproved of this change, and so he murdered many of his fellow steam shinobi before fleeing and eventually joining the Akatsuki, where he would be allowed to kill as much as he likes. Okay, so that's a bunch of information, let's connect it all. So the first weird coincidence here is that Hidan finds the remains of the Chinoike clan who killed each other over a disagreement between violence and pacifism. He later kills multiple members of his own village over that same disagreement, almost as if part of the Chinoike clan followed the same teachings, the way of Jashin. The second thing is that Hidan mysteriously received this curse reflection ability and immortality from a so-called successful Jashin-related ritual. The third thing is that the Chinoike clan's Ketsuryugan and Hidan's curse ability both involve the manipulation and use of blood. Or rather liquids with high concentrations of iron, but yeah, blood. So hear me out. What if the information describing the ritual to achieve immortality, to use the blood curse, and other knowledge of Jashin's teachings were things that Hidan found in the Valley of Hell? Secrets that were once kept by the now dead Chinoike clan. Secrets that were passed on through generations of their clan from their ancestors who were in contact with Jashin Otsutsuki. Maybe Jashin had children with a human and passed on the Ketsuryugan to his descendants. Maybe they worshipped Jashin as a god, and for some unknown motive, Jashin passed on to him the knowledge of these curse-like abilities and how to perform them. We know that the Chinoike clan had a dojutsu that could be linked to an unknown Otsutsuki member. We know that Hidan gained abilities and slaughtered members of his village because of the teachings of Jashin. We know that Hidan did this after discovering the Valley of Hell and the ruins of the Chinoike clan. We know that both Hidan's abilities and the Chinoike clan abilities were blood related. Now would also be a good time to mention that in the Konoha Shinden novel, it's mentioned that the Leaf Village actually investigated this so-called cult of Jashin that Hidan alluded to and came up with nothing. Not a single other member besides Hidan. The official report states that there's a possibility that Hidan invented the whole thing himself and that there was never actually a cult. If that theory is true, then maybe Hidan came up with this when reading through scrolls or other Jashin related documents he found in the Valley of Hell. Later in Boruto's time, the cult of Jashin does make an appearance again through another follower of Jashin named Ryuki. However, Ryuki was less so a follower of Jashin and more so a follower of Hidan. He actually didn't have any real Jashin related abilities. It was said that he actually stumbled upon some Jashin related documents and mimicked Hidan's ability using a common jutsu with a few modifications. Kakashi also mentions that the whole story sounds fishy and that it's possible that those documents weren't even genuine. So even with Ryuki starting his own sect of the cult due to an obsession with Hidan, it still holds true that Hidan was the only member of the real cult of Jashin, which would make sense if he simply found this information himself in the Valley of Hell. So let's run that back. Hundreds of years ago, the Chinoike clan, or their ancestors rather, came into contact with Jashin Otsutsuki. Jashin passed on his Ketsuryugan through childbirth and taught his followers some of the knowledge he had. This family line eventually became the Chinoike clan, just as Kaguya's lineage can be traced to the Uchiha, Hyuga, Kaguya, Senju, etc. Eventually, the Chinoike clan were banished to the Valley of Hell and fought each other to near extinction. Hidan stumbles upon the aftermath, finds documents with knowledge related to Jashin, and when his village turns to pacifism, he eventually decides to use the knowledge to perform the ritual granting him immortality and learns the curse technique. He kills his fellow shinobi either as part of the ritual or just in the name of Jashin, and then flees. From that point on, he worships Jashin religiously because of his teachings leading to Hidan's immortality and the life of violence he always wanted to live. So that is what connects Hidan and the Chinoike clan to one Jashin Otsutsuki. But I didn't forget about Daemon. Remember in the beginning of the video when I said that the related theory is that Daemon and Ada both got their abilities from the Otsutsuki represented by the destroyed symbols in the Ten Tails dimension? Are you seeing where this is going? Somehow, Amado has given these two the abilities of the two missing Otsutsuki. Daemon's damage reflection comes directly from one Jashin Otsutsuki. The reason it's so much better than Hidan's is because this is Jashin's original ability and not some adapted, flawed version that he passed on to his followers. There is one more possibility I would like to briefly mention, and that is the possibility that Amado himself is Jashin, and that he killed his Otsutsuki partner. This would also work along with the rest of this theory, and if you take a look at the area where Amado has built Delta's pods, we can clearly see that the floor bears the symbol of Jashin, the same symbol that Hidan wore around his neck and was required for his curse. This would also make his very apparent connection to Shikamaru in the manga more significant. Just putting that out there. But I'm not done yet. You'll also notice that Shikamaru has been very involved in this recent arc of Boruto and in dealing with Code, Ada, and Daemon. Ada is a character who makes people fall in love with her and prevents them from harming her. Daemon can instantly reflect killing intent back on his opponent. At first glance, the two of them appear to be unkillable. This isn't the first time Shikamaru has gone up against a so-called immortal duo. In that way, the current events of the Boruto manga somewhat parallel the Hidan and Kakuzu arc. I have a sneaking suspicion that it will fall upon Shikamaru to find a way to counter Daemon and Ada, just as he was tasked to come up with a strategy to take down Hidan and Kakuzu. Is this merely a coincidence, or is there indeed a link to that arc being hinted at? It's also been said that Kishimoto wasn't able to fully flesh out that arc the way he wanted to at the time due to him throwing out his back. Could it be that Kishimoto is trying to bring that technically unfinished arc some better closure in what is now the Immortal Duo Arc 2.0? I also have another theory that Amado is a Sarutobi or somehow linked to Asuma. I have a video you can check out about that, link in the description, but if there is any truth to that theory, the current events of Boruto could contain an Asuma link and a Hidan link, or at the very least parallels. Is this all merely coincidence, or could Jashin Otsutsuki really be on the table? Maybe the Otsutsuki's name isn't actually Jashin, but that's just what his followers called him for whatever reason. If that's the case, this could still be true if it is revealed that Daemon's reflection ability is Otsutsuki in origin. Jashin, Chinoike, Hidan, and Daemon. Is it all connected somehow through some mysterious Otsutsuki link? You decide. Wait, what if the Shinigami we see when the Reaper Death Seal is used is actually the spirit of Jashin Otsutsuki? You know, he kinda looks like... Nah, forget it.